Well, good evening and welcome to your town hall. Having reached the hour of 6, I hereby call to order the meeting of the Saukville Town Council. Remind everybody that's being recorded. Tonight's invocation will be given by our own Vice Mayor Kara Egbert, and our pledge is by Emma Busey, a 4th grade student at Continental Elementary School. Vice Mayor.
Our eternal Heavenly Father, we are grateful for this opportunity to gather in the town hall and the tradition of governance and our elected bodies. We pray that Thou will help us to see Thy perspective in understanding the needs and the challenges the town faces. We ask for guidance and Thy knowledge in making decisions tonight. We pray for the safety for our first responders and the military. We are grateful for our freedoms, safety, and the prosperity in our country. We pray that Thou will help us to maintain those things. And we pray that we can follow our Savior's example in charity, humility, and kindness and love tonight. And we ask these things humbly in our Savior's name, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Vice Mayor. Emma?
Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Great job. Thanks for being here.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
Can I interrupt for just a second?
Absolutely.
Staff, I really like having the flag up there because it's such a joy to be able to see these wonderful kids. That we do it before, we'd have to turn our backs to them. And it was wonderful to be able to see her as she did that. Well done.
Absolutely. And I didn't know we had that much of a breeze blowing, so the flag was going really well. Here. Madam Clerk, may I have a roll, please?
Councilmember Bracco.
Here.
Councilmember Davis.
Here.
Councilmember Gillespie.
Here.
Councilmember Priolo. Here. Councilmember Morales. Absent. Vice Mayor Egbert.
Here.
Mayor Murphy.
Here.
Quorum present.
Thank you. And tonight I have one presentation proclamation proclaiming August as Drowning Impact Awareness Month. Jody Layton from the Drowning Prevention Coalition of Arizona was going to be here, but something came up. So I'll do a little shorter version. Drowning is the leading cause of injury and death among children and adolescents in Arizona. Child drownings are nearly 100% preventable. Awareness of this problem is just the first step. Evidence-based programs to bring these strategies to families are the best way to save lives. In collaboration with the Drowning Prevention Coalition, state and local governments, I hereby proclaim August as Drowning Impact Awareness Month. Thank you. Next is call to the public. I have a bunch of speaker cards, but just to let everybody know, sort of as we move forward, especially on maybe an issue you're here to talk about tonight, I'm not really sure, that we are going to institute a spokesperson philosophy. So if a bunch of people want to say the same thing, if you identify yourself within a spokesperson, the spokesperson will get 10 minutes. Instead of the 3 that we'll be allotting. So it's totally up to anybody that wants to do that, but sometimes people have a presentation that's a little longer and a little more in depth, and as opposed to maybe repetition, you guys can elect a spokesperson in a group of 10 or more, and then they'll just identify who those groups are, but then you give up your 3 minutes for that. So something to consider.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
just real quick. Folks, those who stand in the back, there's plenty of seats up
Oh,
front here.
yeah, absolutely. And there's no extra charge for these seats.
Lots of
You're
empty
good?
seats up here.
Okay. Okay. But yeah, we have 1, 2, 3, almost 10-plus seats up here. Mhm. Thanks, Ed. So at this time, remember this is called to the public. Any member of the public is invited to address the town council on any issue which is on tonight's consent agenda or any issue which the town council can lawfully act upon at a future meeting. Pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws, the council may not discuss the items, but individual members of the council may respond to criticism made by those who have addressed the council, may ask staff to review the matter, or may ask that the matter be placed on a future agenda. And as I mentioned, moving forward, if you want to have a spokesperson, but also, usually I don't have a lot of call to the public, so I have a little bit of grace in the 3 minutes, but if you have 30 people doing 3 minutes, that's an hour and a half. So as opposed to wrap up your thought at 3 minutes when the light goes off, it'll be wrap up your sentence. So we'll try to stay on target for that. As I mentioned, I do have speaker cards. First one is Lenny Friedman. And come up to the podium. And there's a light system there. Green means you have the start of the 3 minutes, yellow means there's a minute left, and then red is the, the one that you started with, yep. That's a toggle up and down.
Front of this.
The whole podium will raise to your,
Oh,
there you go. We had it probably set for Emma. You're a little taller.
oh, yeah. Okay,
And you see the light system on the top left of the podium?
yes.
Yep. So when the red one goes off, that's the end of the 3 minutes.
Okay,
Okay, thanks.
great. Well, I'm not here to talk about an asphalt plant.
Yep.
Well, I am here to talk about an athletic facility that I I sent an email to the Parks and Rec, and I did speak to the program director, Austin Campbell, and it concerns a game called disc golf. Now, I don't know how many people are familiar with disc golf, but it is for all ages. I am very active and involved with pickleball and teach in the schools, and I see it's another activity for kids to do, as well as senior citizens. The town of Sahuarita has many beautiful and well-used parks. Both Animax and Quail Creek Veterans Memorial Park would be suitable locations for the addition of disc golf courses. And what I'm here for, Austin did say that it is in his radar to add that. I'm looking for the council to consider appropriating funds, which is not very great for the amount of people that it would serve. It's in alignment with the Sahuarita Parks and Recreation strategic plans and goals. Goal 4 is to continue and maintain and improve existing facilities and amenities. Goal 5 is to deliver exceptional programs for residents of all ages and abilities. Goal 6 is provide consistent and valued parks and recreation facilities and experiences. The plan aims to identify service gaps, anticipate new recreation needs, and develop prioritization for new park and recreation facility acquisition and development. There's currently 7 disc golf courses in Tucson. There are 11 pickleball facilities in Sahuarita, tennis, golf, but we don't have disc golf. So I would like, I could leave this with my contact information. If you have any questions, I would like to help promote it and educate people more about it, and hopefully you'd consider it and appropriate some funds to make it happen.
Thank you for being here tonight, appreciate it. And if you want to leave that paper with Stephanie, she's with the town clerk's office, she'd be happy to get it to us. Thank you. Next, we have Betty Immel.
I parked my butt closer this time, so I don't have to make the big walk. Okay. Sahuarita has a general plan for a reason, yet the constant contemplation of Vulcan's Cup shows a willingness to disregard the general plan and town code, defined and illustrated by retired attorney Mike Sanders in his letter. It stated, rezonings, specific plans, and conditional use permits shall conform to the general plan. Adopted plan policies shall apply to properties being rezoned or considered for a conditional use permit. Mr. Sanders' expertise indicates two statutes, that these statutes aren't a suggestion, they are mandatory. My own journalistic research interviews uncovered the fear of being sued by Vulcan. It isn't Vulcan you should dread. Your angst should stem from the thousands of Sarita residents, homeowners, who will legally come for your dollars as health issues, loss of property values, etc., multiply, and then they'll come for your jobs at the ballot box. If you permit the fear of Vulcan to ignore the town's own mandates and state it as stated above. I also learned the reason Vulcan has suddenly submitted their cup. An informant explained Vulcan recently received a contract to asphalt the I-19 from here to Nogales, which would make them a lot of money and be convenient, but it does nothing for the citizenry. Your job, your responsibility, your loyalty is owed to the residents of Sarita who moved here because of the clean air, less congestion, the environment. It is not to do business with a singular business with a foul reputation. I remind you, Vulcan's record since 2000, 126 violations totaling over $4,246,000. I implore you, do not allow such dangerous violations, fire, floods, serious health hazards from toxic chemicals, and other perils to happen to our beautiful tree-laden hamlet. If you ignore this plea, you are signing potential financial devastation for members of your constituency, and worse yet, conceivable death of Sarita's senior population who suffer from related health issues. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Lisa Larkin. And after Lisa, I'll have Mark Zimmerman on deck.
Mayor Murphy and council, I promise this is different. My name is Lisa Larkin. I'm a resident of Sonora by Del Webb in Rancho Sarita. I'm a RE/MAX franchise owner with offices in Green Valley and Tucson. I've been in Southern Arizona since 1979, and I've been licensed to practice law and real estate in this state since 1986. I'm a member of the board of directors of the Green Valley Sarita Chamber of Commerce. I am invested in this community, and I am a very concerned citizen of Sarita. Because of the potential negative impact of an asphalt processing plant, we are experiencing negative economic consequences. Anecdotally, I've heard of a pool contractor losing his job to build a pool in Quail Creek. I've heard of multiple buyers walking away from large deposits on new homes. I've heard about Quail Creek homeowners selling out or thinking hard about whether to sell in order to get ahead of the anticipated mass exodus and loss of property value. I have personal knowledge, though, of 3 specific home buyer decisions that have cost our company, myself, my agents, thousands of dollars, and I'm going to share them with you now. Number 1, a few months ago, I had a buyer cancel a backup offer on a golf course home in Quail Creek because he started digesting the information that I had given him about the possibility of the asphalt operation. He and his wife have given up on Green Valley and Sarita altogether, and now they're looking in Tucson. About the same time, another buyer asked me to help them acquire a home they identified online. With the help of a friend who lives in the area, they were prepared to buy it sight unseen. When I disclosed what I knew about the potential asphalt processing operation, they decided to wait until fall to see what happens and maybe to start looking farther south in Green Valley, if they even decide to stay in Green Valley. Just last week, I helped some agents at our company whose buyer realized that buying in Quail Creek was just too risky. The buyer was to close last Friday and decided they wanted to cancel because the seller had not disclosed the matter to the buyer in writing, but rather told the buyer directly that it will never happen. The buyer should be able to invoke the various contract provisions that allow him to cancel without penalty, but we shall see. I have also heard stories of buyers who have been blindsided, only learning about this proposed asphalt operation after closing on their new retirement home, their dream home. They are sick over it. It will be very interesting to see how they respond if the asphalt operation is allowed to proceed. In summary, there is a direct economic impact on sellers, real estate agents, brokerages who have lost contracts and offers. It's obvious when buyers back out. It's less obvious when the seller has to sell for less because the demand is dried up. It is even less obvious when this starts impacting all area business.
Thank you for being here. Mark Zimmerman, and then Gail Baumgartner is on deck.
Honorable Mayor Murphy, council members and town staff, thank you for your attention tonight. My name is Mark Zimmerman, and I'm one of the volunteers of Concerned Citizens of Sahuarita. We have passed out for your reference a hard copy of Mike and Cecilia Sandez's letter that they submitted to you all by email on August 3rd. We know that a good number of people have sent in presentations, white papers, emails, and letters. But there is one letter that we want to emphasize tonight. We don't want the Sandez letter lost or buried under all the documents or filed in a cabinet and forgotten. We want to make sure the public knows about it. We understand the magnitude of your decision you are called to make regarding the Vulcan Cup application. We also understand the overarching importance of the town code and the general plan, both of which are intertwined and from which you must base your decision. So we are here to highlight for you the important parts of this letter. Yes, you've probably read it, but it certainly bears repeating. And we think the Sandez letter is so important that there are going to be 7 of us, 6 after me, speak to it. And we will reference it as we go along with our presentation. So council members, I would like to draw your attention to paragraph 1, the last 2 sentences. It reads, "The general plan is more than a recommendation suggested by a guide. The code mandates that conditional use conform to the plan." And I would like to draw your attention to the town code reference in footnotes 6 and 7. It reads as follows. For the decision-making and administering of conditional use permits, the code states, rezonings, specific plans, and conditional use permits shall conform to the general plan. The same code chapter on the general plan reinforces this mandate. Adopted plan policy shall apply to properties being rezoned or considered for a conditional use permit. Now I am in the middle of page 2 and at the end of the second full paragraph. The code neither raises the bar for a zoning amendment nor relaxes it for a conditional use permit. Whether it be a conditional use permit or a zoning code change request, each shall conform to the general plan according to the town code. Now on page 2, the third full paragraph. So what is the definition of conform? According to the dictionary, conform means to comply. This can only mean that the town council, when it enacted the zoning regulations, intended that the general plan to be more than a guide. The town council must recognize the code elevates the plan such that a conditional use applicant is required to comply with the standards and policies of the code and the plan. And that completes my time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Mark. Gail, and then Randall Langham.
Sorry.
Mayor Murphy and council members, my name is Gail Baumgartner. I'm one of the volunteers of Concerned Citizens of Sahuarita, CCS, and I'm here to speak to the Sandez letter. Please follow me to the bottom of page 2 and to the top of page 3. Page 2 at the bottom, according to the town code, the purpose of the general plan reflects as much as possible public consensus on land use issues. Page 3 at the top, the general plan is the official document for the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Town Council for accomplishing coordinated physical development consistent with the current and anticipated needs of the town. Why? Because Aspire 2035 plan makes that point. These are the realities of Sahuarita. Public discontent and the hot mix asphalt plant in Sahuarita cannot be ignored. As referenced at the top of page 3 in paragraph after the quotation, public consensus must be implemented into the decision regarding the specific conditional use application. Footnote 11. It appears an overwhelming majority of public stakeholders, that is, local property owners, including FICO, express a firm objection to Vulcan's hot mix asphalt plant. Town leadership cannot be dismissive of the public consensus against approval. As the leadership, you must use the general plan as an official document of the town to accomplish what the plan extensively explains are the current and anticipated needs of the town. Such needs are overwhelmingly demonstrated to be population growth and development of residential dwellings in Sahuarita. Page 3, first full paragraph. A company like Vulcan that might hire 20 employees or may not live or shop in Sahuarita, hire truck drivers who own their own trucks who may or may not live or shop in Sahuarita, and over whom Vulcan has limited or to no control over their trucks, and use its hot mix asphalt plant to earn income from projects outside of Sahuarita does not accomplish the current and anticipated needs of the town. In fact, this kind of business endeavor cuts deeply against the public consensus. For this reason, the town code requires a decision that supports the goal of meeting the residential needs of Sahuarita, a decision that is consistent with the public consensus. For your reference, go to the bottom paragraph of page 3, footnotes 14 and 15. Vulcan must obtain approval of a developmental plan that shall contain sufficient information to evidence compliance with all applicable town ordinances, regulations, and policies. And to emphasize these criteria, the code requires development plan to comply with the town standards before approval is granted. Therefore, the general plan cannot be viewed as a mere suggestive guide during your deliberations over an actual pending application. And now a question for you. How has Vulcan shown its compliance with this? We submit it has not complied and will not be able to comply. And that ends my time. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, Gail. Appreciate it. Randall, and then Wendy Pendleton on deck.
This thing here?
Yep, that's the toggle up and down.
I'm a little gimpy tonight, Mayor. Please excuse me. Get my glasses. Mayor, Town Council, my name's Randall Lingham, and I also am a member of the Concerned Citizens of Sahuarita. And I, too, would like to reemphasize some of the Sandez thoughts. And tonight, specifically, I want to reemphasize the central principles of the zoning code as referenced in Town Code Section 18.01. This, if you're following along in the Sandez letter, is starting at the second full, or actually the first full paragraph on page 4. Explicitly, these principles are stated as for the promotion and protection of the public health, peace, safety, comfort, convenience, and general welfare, and in order to secure for the citizens of Sahuarita, Arizona, the social and economic advantages of an orderly, efficient use of land. This quotation speaks to the importance of our citizens' concerns for these central principles. We are your constituents who, by public consensus and agreement, insist that the Town Council deny Vulcan's CUP application. And instead implement the unambiguous reality that Sahuarita is demonstrably residential, not for a use that involves toxic chemicals and produces hazards and nuisances to its citizens. Secondly, to the extent that there is a dispute about how to apply the code, you must adhere to another foundational principle of Sahuarita's zoning code in your search for a dispute solution. And I quote, "That solution shall be favored which is most reasonable with regard to the general purpose of this code. It bears repeating that the overarching purpose of the code is that the town leadership will arrive at a decision that favors the most profound purpose of its government, that being the promotion and protection of the citizens of Sahuarita. And finally, for your reference, I'm at the last full paragraph on page 4, and I quote from the code. No special favors or privileges shall be granted to any individual or group of property owners, and no permit shall be issued under the terms of this code which will or might reasonably tend to destroy the established economic or social uses and values of adjacent or surrounding properties. That would ultimately be our property values and a tranquil residential existence for nearby neighborhoods to a hot mix asphalt plant. With those thoughts, I will close.
Thank you, Wendell. Appreciate it. Wendy Pendleton and then Michael Myers on deck.
Mayor Murphy and council members, my name is Wendy Pendleton. I'm another volunteer of Concerned Citizens of Sahuarita, and I am here to read a part of the Sanchez letter, picking up where Randy left off, starting at the last part of the last paragraph of page 4. Permitting a conditional use that involves toxic chemicals, emits particulates and odors, and increases the risk of explosions and fires would indeed violate this overarching zoning principle. Sahuarita's large percentage of residential properties and pecan groves surrounding the Vulcan parcel would suffer from the deterioration of the established economic and social uses and values caused by the hot mix asphalt plant. Anecdotal evidence already indicates a reduction in property values and fewer sales of homes. Would-be purchasers have refused to close escrow and have walked away from the transaction despite the loss of earnest money deposits. Others declined to look at homes in Sahuarita and instead have chosen to look elsewhere. Should this trend continue, we should all be concerned, particularly our elected officials, whose decision to grant the CUP application likely would have significant financial consequences for the community. Now to page 5, first full paragraph. Town leadership is to use guidelines regarding the interpretation of sections of the code. As referenced in the town code, footnote 21, the minimum requirements for interpretation and application shall be adopted for the promotion of public safety, health, convenience, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare. Another essential guideline for interpretation and resolving conflicts within the code is an impact on other property within the zone and adjacent or affected property. Now page 5, third full paragraph. There's an obvious ambiguity that exists about the designation of the Vulcan parcel. Aspire 2035's general plan land use map designates Vulcan's parcel as a resource industrial area. However, a digital search of the Sahuarita Town Code produced no matches for resource industrial, and resource industrial is not an element required by the code to be included in the general plan. Sahuarita's official zoning map places the Vulcan parcel in the RH, or Rural Homestead Zone. Page 5, fourth full paragraph, and at the top of page 6. Vulcan plays on this ambiguity by referencing the general plan's use of the resource industrial phrase as justification for its CUP application. The problem with Vulcan's use of the phrase is that neither state law requiring municipalities to establish a general plan nor Aspire 2035 refer to a hot mix asphalt plant in the discussion and definition of resource industrial or sand and gravel extraction sites. Realistically, a hot mix asphalt use ought to be in a manufacturing or industrial zone with more stringent standards, but the code does not include a hot mix asphalt in such zones.
Thank you. Maybe
Thank you.
Michael will continue. Thank you. Appreciate it. And Rick Corrado on deck.
Way up. Good evening, Mayor Murphy and council members. My name is Michael Myers. I'm a volunteer of Concerned Citizens of Sahuarita. My wife and I bought our home in Quail Creek in December of last year, about a month before the conditional use permit was made public. We would not have bought our house had we known that a month later, and especially if we knew that reclaimed fuel oil and limited to no emissions controls were going to plan to be in place. We wouldn't have done it, just to echo some of the comments about deals that fell through. I will also refer to the Sandez letter for your reference. I am the first full paragraph at the top of page 6. The other flaw with Vulcan's assertion is its repetition of the town plan statement. Sand and gravel extraction is necessary for all construction and reconstruction activities with the town and must continue to be a valid, recognized use. There is no doubt that sand and gravel are necessary for construction and reconstruction. However, it is our understanding that Vulcan's contractual obligations involves transporting its sand and gravel and its hot mix asphalt for sale outside of Sahuarita. So town leadership must recognize that approval of Vulcan's application will not help construction in Sahuarita. What good is that approval of a hot mix asphalt plant use within Sahuarita that will benefit construction outside of Sahuarita? What goals and policies of the plan would be recognized? If you approve the CUP application, the current land use situation would drastically change. The code, however, imposes a core zoning principle that no permit shall be issued under the terms of this code, which will or might reasonably tend to destroy the established economic or social uses and values of adjacent and surrounding properties. Now I'll read part of the second paragraph on page 6. In light of the preceding core purpose, the code's ambiguity is magnified by the lack of standards to determine whether a hot asphalt plant will destroy established uses and values of adjacent or surrounding properties. Vulcan's application is based on the inclusion of asphalt plant in subsection 18.13.030.b.23 as a conditional use in the rural homestead zone. However, the description of an asphalt plant with this subsection is not helpful. Other than reference to a type 3 procedure set back in notice, the only other standard is stated in broad terms and focuses only on dust. Controls be established and used to minimize the generation of dust. That concludes my comments. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Rick, and then Lee Staub.
Mayor Murphy and council members, my name is Rick Corrado, and I am also a volunteer of Concerned Citizens of Sahuarita. I'll continue to read parts of the Sandez letter. For your reference, I'll begin at the last paragraph at the bottom of page 6 and go to 7. You're familiar that the town code requires the town council to make certain findings about the Vulcan Cup application and to ensure it complies with the town code. There are criteria for approval of conditional use in the residential housing zone listed in section 18.97.030.f.3. I would direct the council to specifically look at the language in this section. Specifically, findings. The applicant must demonstrate that all the following findings are met. The conditional use complies with objectives of the general plan or the area plan in which the property is situated. And B, the conditional use conforms to the zoning regulations applicable for that use in the zone in which it is located. Regarding subsections A and B, given that 84% of Sahuarita's land mass is committed to the residential use and that much of the other data in Aspire 2035 support the residential reality in Sahuarita, what metrics suggest Vulcan will meet the objectives of the town plan, particularly when its product will be exported for construction outside of Sahuarita? This approach to the use that involves toxic chemicals that will produce hazards and nuisances greatly contrasts with language concerning standards in industrial zones, which prohibit the emission of odors and emissions of odors in such amounts as to create a nuisance of hazard beyond the property line and the emission of dust, fumes, vapors, gases, and other forms of air pollution that would damage vegetation. Think pecan groves. Then the code includes subsections C and F. And again, I direct the council to look specifically at the language. C, the conditional use does not adversely impact adjacent property or the surrounding neighborhood or area, and that such impacts can be substantially mitigated through the use of additional conditions. And I ask, how do you mitigate outright pollution that can't fully be mitigated? F, the conditional use will meet standards in terms of control of noise, smoke, glare, heat, odors, vibrations, fly ash, dust, fumes, vapors, gases, and other forms of pollution, liquids and solids. Regarding CNF, what are the regulations with the residential zone besides the broad requirement to control dust that must be met by the applicant that would make a hot mix asphalt plant safe for and without impact on the adjacent or surrounding area? What are the standards to control nuisances listed in subsection 3 and F? Whether nuisances could be created by a hot mix asphalt plant? Do the fuel to run the mandatory machinery create a hazard? If you're concerned about that, you should read some of the letters that I wrote to you pointing out the fire and explosion. And now I have to ask the questions at the top of page 8. So what standards will be applied? Will Vulcan's application set the standards? Is the public left to chase phantom standards in our attempt to muster objections? This concludes my remark. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here. Lee, and then Lynn Hukensfeld. I did my best on that. I apologize.
Mr. Mayor and council members, my name is Lee Staub, and I'm also a volunteer with CCS. And I'll conclude the letter. On page 8, the lack of standards and the ambiguity in the code must be resolved in favor of promoting public health, safety, convenience, comfort, prosperity, and general welfare, and in favor of protecting against impacts such as particulates, odors, and other forms of nuisance and hazards that are imposed on adjacent or affected property. Citizens have expressed a public consensus that demands rejections of Vulcan's application. The fact that the town code has minimal standards for a hot mix asphalt plant as a conditional use in an R8 zone cannot be justification to give Vulcan broad leeway regarding the data it presents to support its application. And the code's minimal standards cannot be justification for approval of the application based on the least restrictive set of conditions: lives, property values, pecan groves, and other areas of the community are at risk. So God bless you in your deliberations, and I hope you do that carefully. The town code and general plan bear on the Vulcan application. It's our view that you are mandated to apply the policies and standards imposed by both. It's our hope that in the public interest that in the interest of public service, you earnestly take into account the points and observations that we make in this letter. And that's the end of the letter. And so now my own personal comments. As I mentioned to you about 3 months ago, I'm a retired military officer, and I've taken a lot of oaths, and I administered a lot of them. And I know you did before when you took office. I want to remind you just of 4 of your responsibilities. You have a responsibility to regulate land through the use of zoning laws. You have a responsibility to regulate businesses and activity through licensing and regulations. You have a responsibility to your constituents' needs, concerns, and their complaints. And finally, you have a responsibility for the public health, safety, and welfare of these people that are sitting in the audience. When I was in the military, the most important thing that I was taught when I graduated from West Point and all the times that I took people into harm's way was mission first, people always. You have a mission, and it's your responsibility to make this decision. But you make sure that you take into account these people that have chosen to live here from different parts of the United States, because these are your constituents and their lives are in your hands. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Lynn, and then Jane Clark.
Mr. Mayor, members of the City Council, my name is Lynn Husingfeld, but in Hawaii the students called me Mr. H.
Yes.
And that'd be fine with me. I'm a group member of this group, and we have 21 key questions that we're asking town officials to direct your staff to seek answers for all these questions. My family, my wife and I, she's back there in the audience, we purchased in December, closed in December, and then she says that if this asphalt plant had been on the offing, if it looked like it was going to be something you guys were going to approve, she would not have located in Sahuarita. This application has been pending for about 6 months, 7 months, and they have an original conditional use application and then a subsequent one, but still very, very little has been defined. It's very, very, many questions remain. Number one, Vulcan is proposing to build its plant in an existing gravel pit. approximately 67 feet below the surface with a 65-foot silo. Has any analysis been done to examine the impacts of ground level emissions that this facility will emit? Number 2, how many hot mix asphalt plants are operating underground, basically, or at ground level in Arizona, in the United States? It seems quite unusual to me. And the pictures on the front of this application, the second one, don't look like what they're saying they're going to do. What problems or violations have been reported against these uses? If they put the thing down near the ground level, what problems is that going to cause? What are the types and quantities of pollutants that will be emitted by the plant, such as volatile organic compounds, particulate matter, sulfur dioxide, nitrogen oxides, and carbon monoxide on a daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, or intermittent basis? How will the plant monitor and control these emissions? Now, they've kind of skated on this particular issue, and they're saying, well, we'll be under DEQ regulations. Well, no, it needs to be the city that regulates this. You regulate it in the industrial zone, you need to regulate it in the rural housing area. Yellow, I'm almost out of time. I noticed as I came through this meeting that I crossed a bridge, and there's a dry water cross just before we get that, and Santa Cruz River is just to my left. Are they going to cause pollution if they have this thing down in 65 foot below the surface in a gravel pit? Are they going to pollute that river? They're bringing in bitumen, and thank you.
But this will be part of the record. I just want you to know that, all of the questions.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Jane?
Good evening. I'm Jane Clark. I'm a resident of Sarita as a homeowner and a full-time resident and a member of as a volunteer of the Concerned Citizens Group. Tonight, I'm going to follow on from what Lynn had talked about on the key resident questions about the Vulcan hot mix asphalt plant. Again, we're asking for the town officials to help us to seek answers to the important questions. I'm going to start at question 11, and if we have time at the end, I can go back to the ones we didn't get to cover. 11, it is known that SO2 emissions are water soluble. We have an AZDEQ consent decree monitoring a migrating sulfate plume from the existing copper mines on the west side of Sarita. What assurances do we have that SO2 or other pollutants will not enter the groundwater during the monsoon season and endanger the community's drinking water? 12, has and will water and soil quality be tested in the surrounding area? If so, what were the results or what are the plans? 13, what is the expected noise level for the plant during operation, and how might it impact the residents' well-being and sleep? 14, are there any potential odors associated with the asphalt process? How might they affect residents' quality of life? 15, have there been any studies on the potential impact of odors on nearby communities and property values? 16, is there a plan for ongoing health monitoring of nearby residents to detect any potential health effects over time? 17, how will any health concerns identified be addressed and communicated to the community? 18, Vulcan operates plants in other jurisdictions with restrictive environmental requirements. Has the town examined these other facilities and considered requiring alternative plant designs? 19, have other locations for the plant been considered? What factors influence the decision to locate it near residential areas? 20, reduction in property value is a significant issue. It applies to odor, noise, and operations. Are any of these studies from other locations available? 21, existing use of Vulcan's property is non-conforming with the town's general plan. Expansion to a hot mix asphalt plant will also be non-conforming. Why does the town just not deny the use as nonconforming? Who are the proponents within the town for this? We, as your citizenry, have the right to ask these questions of our town officials. Town officials have the duty to make every effort to honestly answer the citizens' questions. We expect these questions to be answered prior to the public hearing currently scheduled for September 19th. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for being here. That's all the speaker cards I have. Does anybody else like to address the council? Yes. Just make sure you fill out a call afterwards. Yep. Yeah. Just make sure you fill out a call to the public speaker card.
I will do that.
Town
Thank you.
clerk, appreciate it.
Town Council, Mayor, my name is Scott Clyburn. I didn't plan to speak tonight. I just came to support the folks in red. We are currently residents of Quail Creek. We're renters. We were owners up until last July when we sold our house. Moved to Oklahoma to be near our kids. Oklahoma was bad for us. We didn't like it. So we are back now, and I have $650,000 burning a hole in my pocket. And if you pass this CUP, I will not buy in Quail Creek. I will not buy in Green Valley. I will not buy in Sahuarita. I was a commercial real estate broker for almost 30 years. And while I understand exactly what you're going through and the growing pains that the town of Sahuarita is going through currently, it is beyond me why it's taken you so long to make a decision on this issue. I understand all the legal issues, been through and been on the other side of things myself many times, but to take this long and to put this many people's lives on hold, basically, it's ludicrous. So thank you again for your time, and God bless you in your decision.
John, I mean, since there was a little criticism there, well, we probably have to wait till the end of the call to public.
Okay, because I just want to
do-
clarify that comment of,
Yeah.
so we'll wait.
Ed?
I'm a little shorter. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good evening. Audience, good evening. My name is Edgar Lytle. I am a resident of Rancho Sahuarita, and I'm also a member of Disabled American Veterans. I'm a Vietnam veteran myself, and I just wanted to let everyone here know that we now have a chapter of the DAV in Sahuarita and Green Valley. It's chapter 38, and we will have our charter presentation September 16th, I believe it is. It's the third Saturday of September, and I'd like to invite each and every one of you there. It will be held at the Armed Forces Tribute, and it's going to be short and sweet, but we're very proud of it. We've been working on it for 2 years. I know, Mr. Bracco, you're a veteran.
Life member of the DAB.
Great. Mayor Murphy, I believe you're also a member.
And a charter member of DAV.
And charter member of our DAV. So that's why I'm here this evening. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, appreciate it. Anybody else like to address the council? Yes. Just make sure, I know I'm going to keep repeating it, you fill out a speaker card for the town clerk and have it for the record, please.
My name is Julie Marty McLean, and I sell more houses in Quail Creek than anybody else. And I personally have lost 6 transactions due to the asphalt plant. And I don't care so much about me, but my sellers, the people that I'm representing, it's taking people, it's just taking that many more people to come in and look because they're losing deals. And it's not so much even that it's there, it's just the prospect of it. And so I can only imagine that if it does get through, this will affect property values significantly. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and council members. As I was sitting there, I just could not let this go, especially after our real estate agent here spoke. But my very best friend moved to Quail Creek in October. And when they heard about the asphalt plant, they left in May. They were just fearful. She has respiratory illnesses, and they moved out of the area. So it's not a matter of if, but it's happening right now. So, just want you to know how it really lands and how it affects people.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
Mr. Mayor, would you mind would you state your name for the record, please?
Liz Livingston.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. And there's cards in the back to fill out as well. Yes, ma'am.
Mayor and Town Council, I just wanted to introduce myself. My name is Laura Sabara. You may recognize my name because I've written several letters to the Town Council. I'm a retired physician. My specialty was occupational environmental medicine. My contribution in this area has to do with the toxicology and environmental and health impacts of these substances that are emitted from the asphalt plant. And I have been helping the group to understand and to separate fact from fiction, and there's a lot on both sides. So I just wanted to put a face behind the letters that are probably annoying the heck out of you, but anyway, I'll be back at September 19th, to 3 minutes to condense a lot of information.
Thank you. I appreciate you being here.
Yes, bye.
Yes, ma'am. Don't forget the card, speaker card.
Hi, I'm Becky Ashen, and I didn't have any intention of speaking tonight, but I am here to support the rest of the community. I am in the process of getting ready to sell my home in Quail Creek. My husband passed away very suddenly, and I have found that, I need to downsize. So not only am I looking to find a buyer, which this really concerns me, but it's also rebuying again in Quail Creek and downsizing. So I do implore you to really consider what this means to this community. And while I was sitting here thinking about this as well, I was thinking about the recreation center that's across from Quail Creek. I know everyone here pretty much is from Quail Creek. This isn't just about Quail Creek. This is about Sahuarita. I went to the store the other night and couldn't hardly even get through because of the cars that were parked for the kids that are playing in the soccer fields and the people who come to the dog park and so on. So it's not just about the Quail Creek residents. It's about everyone that is here in this community. So I'm sorry that more aren't represented from the homeowners that have young children and people that will also be affected and maybe just don't realize it at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else like to speak a call to the public? Seeing no movement, I will close the call to the public. And before the Vice Mayor says a couple of things, one, just thank you. I didn't have to, virtually everybody sat down at the yellow light. So that was just grateful. We have great residents and really appreciate it. Vice Mayor?
Yeah, I also wanted to, a side note to go with that is it was so nice to have pleasant discussion, like comments. Thank you for that. I wanted to, the clarification for that, for the criticism that we haven't said no to this, the process hasn't even been brought to us yet. When it comes to CUP, it has to go through the application process, then it has to go to the planning and zoning, and then it comes to us. There is there has not been a time that we have been able to even vote on this yet. So please know that we are not carrying on to annoy you or to not answer you. Currently, it is just in the staff's hands and Vulcans and their application. The first meeting will be with the planning and zoning, and I anticipate more than one meeting as they work through this process and ask questions and get answers and such. Then it will come to us if it passes the planning and zoning. So just let you know, we are not holding out, we are not, I mean, I haven't quite, well, I won't go any further because I want to make comment. I don't want to get myself in trouble. So is that close enough?
Just to clarify, it will come to you regardless of.
Yes.
Thank you for that. Thank you.
Yeah. But to the Vice Mayor's point, we have, a lot of questions that have been submitted. We appreciate that, and it takes time to get all those answered, so that's part of the process as well. Next is brief summary of current events from council members. Councilmember Bracco, anything?
Nothing for me, thanks.
Simon? Diane?
I have one.
Okay.
There is, if you guys are familiar with the soccer program AYSO that's in our community, they are starting an AYSO Epic. And this is incredible, and I hope that you guys will listen a little bit before you head out, that it is everyone plays in our community. And it's set aside for those that play soccer that experience physical and mental disabilities that make it difficult for them to be successful players on mainstream soccer games. And so it's the successful participant is anyone that's defined the player's enjoyment and the safety of all team members. There's also an AYSO Epic Buddy. And these are buddies that assist during the games in which players learn soccer while meeting new friends, having fun, and increasing skills and self-esteem. So this is coming, if you know somebody that would interested in participating in AYSO's Epic program, I have information. I actually have flyers. They're sitting in my car, but I didn't want to leave, and you guys think that I left because you guys were talking. So I'm going to step out quickly to get them, and I'll have them in the back for any information that you needed.
Thank you, and I just had one, just thanks to Park and Rec, Public Works, and Comms for putting together the ribbon cutting of our Sahuarita sign on Sahuarita Road. A great relationship with PAG, Pima Association of Governments, which funded our Sahuarita High School art students with our teacher, art teacher, Mr. Poor, and also the special recognition of John Garcia for his 15 years working on this program, the underpass, the benches, trash cans, all of the above. So just grateful for such a great event. Also, as a reminder, our next regular scheduled meeting is Monday, September 11th. So I always like to put that out there. And Madam Clerk, if you'll read item number 8, please.
Town Manager's Report highlighting employee and department accomplishments, capital improvement projects, development projects, and town events.
Thank you. Mr. Dilly.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Once again, it's a privilege to be the voice in presenting the August Town Manager's Report to you, which really kind of highlights the activity of your staff over the month of August and a little bit into the month of July. I will note here a little bit of a deviation from past practice in terms of how we're going to move forward in delivering not just the town manager's report, but other reports that you've historically gotten over the course of a month. Historically, they've been coming into you randomly over the month by various departments. We saw an opportunity to streamline that process just a little bit, making it easier not only for the council to have access to all that wonderful information from your departments, but also now that we're bringing it as part of the town manager's report in the staff report for these meetings, all those reports are now accessible to the general public. So they go to the staff report, it's online, and they can click on any of the links from different departments as well as the town manager's report. And we thought that would be helpful to the public as well. So just wanted to make note of that change and how we're moving forward. Thank you. Next slide. So we'd like to kick this one off by acknowledging new employees and anniversaries for the town. Jennifer Busey, our office assistant, is new here with us. She started in July. Isaiah Herrero, recreational generalist, also started in July. Thomas Kennemer, maintenance worker in Parks and Rec, started in July. Aaliyah Bronze, assistant planner, also started in July. Larry Lawrence, but he goes by Larry, met him the other day. Myers, senior permit tech, he started the middle of August. And Ray Friedlander, you met her the other night as a management intern in the town manager's office, and she started in August as well. By way of our service milestones, we would certainly be remiss if we didn't acknowledge several of our employees, 4 of them to be exact, celebrating their milestones. At 20 years, which is a huge commitment to the community and to our organization, we've got Hector Iglesias, police officer. He was hired August 3rd of 2003. Like to just do a special call out for him and appreciate that service to our community. At 10 years, we've got 2, Victor Gonzalez, Economic Development and Public Affairs Director, and Jorge Rodriguez, Systems Analyst. They were both hired on the same day, August 5th, 2013. And then we've got a 5-year acknowledgement, Oscar Fruge, who's a corporal. He was hired on August 28th, 2018. Next slide. Mayor and Council, we acknowledge the accomplishments of our town employees as well, who have won an award or earned a certification or have earned a mention for their outstanding service to the town. We'd like to kick this one off by congratulating Beth Abramovich, our assistant town manager, who was recently recognized by the APWA, that's the Arizona Public Works Association, at their annual statewide conference in Oro Valley earlier this summer as the 2023 Professional Manager of the Year by the Arizona chapter of APWA. Beth continues to take steps to further her career in public administration. The most recent evidence of this was Beth applying for and being awarded a scholarship by the International City Managers Association, which has paid for her registration fees and allocated her a travel stipend of $1,000 so that she could attend this upcoming ICMA conference in Austin, Texas. And that's going to be in late September. These are very competitive scholarships, I know, and so I wanted to make sure that we called out Beth and that achievement. Thank you, Beth. In our Public Works Department, Commander Allred, Lieutenant Falquez, and Lieutenant Carlson have recently all become assessors for the Arizona Law Enforcement, or ALEAP, what is it?
ALEAP.
ALEAP. Thank you, accreditation program. Thank you, Chief. And so what this means is that these 3 individuals will be able to go out and help other agencies rate them and help them make their own journey towards accreditation. In addition to this, Chief Nolan has been asked to join the ALEAP Commission as an official commissioner, and he plans to start that assignment in September of 2023. Congratulations, Chief. It's just good to hear our employees making little ripples across the state and providing influence where they can shine, and our employees certainly do that. I'll also note here, as it is related to the police department and further highlighting the good work of our men and women in blue over there, that the town was notified this past Friday that we had been awarded about a little over $88,000 and some change in grant monies from the Governor's Office of Highway Safety Program. This is going to be probably 5 or 6 different categories, but it's a substantial recognition, in terms of how much money we're allocated for that. So thank you, Chief and staff, for all that you do there. We'd also like to congratulate Andrew Parkin. He's a plans examiner, a building inspector in planning and building, on passing his International Construction Code Plumbing Certification exam, which is something that they have to work really hard to do. So he recently received that certification. Next slide, please. Now we'll get into some major highlights from our departments. There's a lot of information here. August seemed to be a really busy month for staff. We'd like to acknowledge that the Quail Crossing Boulevard Extension Project was awarded again from the Arizona Public Works Association the 2023 Project of the Year for Small Cities, Rural Communities Transportation category, and grateful to have Vice Mayor Egbert with us and with staff supporting them as they received that award. The town, through the support of U.S. Congressman Juan Ciscomani, a member of the House Appropriations Committee, secured a $3 million funding source from the feds towards the construction of the town's portion of the Campbell Avenue Extension Project. The town's portion of the project is to connect White House Canyon Road with South Campbell Avenue in the Madera Highlands community, and by so doing, we would improve the circulation of traffic in that area tremendously. While this is certainly a noteworthy appropriation by Congressman Ciscomani, the town is cognizant of the fact that the U.S. House of Representatives now needs to approve the actual allocation of funds. However, the Congressman's appropriation is a significant step in that process, and we're pretty optimistic about the outcome. So we continue to be excited about that announcement. The mayor and I do have a meeting with the congressman later this week where we hope to learn a little bit more about this process and to get his thoughts on it as well. Next slide. We'll note here a notice of intent has gone out for our contractor, Altitude Recreation, for the Animex Playground, the new Animex Playground that we're going to have out there, and as well as final details are being made on the notice of intent to award for the Animex Splash Pad. So all that's going to be happening here in the very near future, and we're excited for Animex and that park for the entire community.
And Shane, I can only assume that if it's starting in September, October, that the splash pad would be finished by the summer.
That's our intent.
Okay, thanks. I know we don't control supply chain and those, I see a lot of shaking heads in the back by people that know, so thank you.
Thank you, Mayor, for that clarification. Yes, we're hoping to bring that amenity to our community here shortly. Several planning and building department employees, along with, we know how to have fun as well, but several of our employees from planning and building, along with employees from other departments, plus a few friends and family members, participated in this year's Parks and Rec Co-Ed Softball League. The 17 athletes, loosely termed, formed a team, Scared Hitless. Mm-hmm. And that has been, they've been playing throughout the season. That's July and August. They wanted me to recognize Councilmember Gillespie for coming out and supporting that effort. They really appreciated it.
It was the best softball game I've seen in years.
Thank you.
One.
I also want to note, while we're on the topic of planning and building, great things continue to happen in that department. Not only did they begin recently a peer-to-peer recognition effort, which is admirable, where peers can call each other out for good deeds, supporting, being a team member, things like that. But they've also received, just in this last review period, 19 customer comment cards, all of which contain very, very positive feedback for the services that department's rendering to our customers, both the business side and the residential side. As it relates to economic development and public affairs, staff continues to work really hard with our consultant TIP strategies. That consultant is working on our economic development master plan. They recently went down to the city of Nogales to meet with the economic development group there and the Maquiladora Association, which is the manufacturing group across the line. Purpose of the site was to gather information on the current state of the economy and activities in Nogales and the binational region. All of that's going to feed and fuel the report that they end up providing us later on. We're also in discussions with Civic Plus. Civic Plus is the group that hosts our website. We've also engaged a consultant group, Gordley Group, to work with our departments and to help bring streamlined content to the website. We know that the website is a place it's a hub for our community, a place where people go to get information. We want to make that as attractive and effective as possible so that the public can get there and get the information they need, and it continues to be a tool and a resource for the community. So more to come on that, but we're excited about that. Next slide. And by way of just a couple of updates on capital projects, Ashton Construction achieved a key milestone in the project, completing the milling and overlay work near the railroad tracks. This is over there by Quail Crossing. Followed by the striping on August 15th. The project's primary focus will center on enhancing the railroad crossing, a task that falls under the purview of the railroad, of course, with the oversight of the ACC. The encouraging outcome of the ACC meeting on August 7th, again regarding that same area, is that they've indicated anticipated railroad improvements are likely to materialize a lot sooner than we had previously forecasted. We're now looking to have that project, which is the new crossings and the system there, within the 6 to 9 month time frame, which is really, really good. Those stars seem to be lining up. We're continuing to work and make headway on our wastewater reclamation facility. A big hurdle that we're working on, Mayor and Council, with regards to that project is trying to address the inflation hits to that project. We recognize that there's a real tendency by government agencies to devalue through value engineering a project. You can basically strip it down to no value at all, and you really reap the consequences of that down the road. We don't want that to happen, so we're really trying to take responsible steps to minimize the cost the greatest we can, and still have a project at the end of the day that's going to serve this community and serve it well for years to come. So stay tuned on that. Public Works obtained a federal grant in March through the RTA to provide emergency vehicle preemption at 8 intersections on Nogales Highway and Duval Mine Road. We're excited about those projects coming into pass. Installation of emergency vehicle preemption equipment is expected to be completed in late November, so we're just right around the corner. Additionally, we heard today that our application to the Tohono O'odham Nation for funding to update the striping, signage, and markings along Pima Mine Road in the amount of $55,000 was approved. This work will effectively bring Pima Mine Road into compliance with the latest standards in the industry. So we're excited about that and our partnership ongoing with the Tohono O'odham Nation. And then we've talked a lot about the Vulcan project tonight. Really appreciate the council's patience, the community's patience. There are a lot of great questions that are being asked, a lot of good points that are being brought forward by the public. We have a lot of work ahead of us in terms of digesting all of that and making sure that these questions receive their due time in terms of a proper answer, as well as holding Vulcan as the applicant accountable to to show up and to make sure that they are addressing the things that they need to address. So really appreciate the patience and ask for that continued patience as we work through this process. Next slide. Mayor and Council, I'm happy to answer any questions that you have.
Yeah, no, I don't have any from there. I did leave out a thank you to the town clerk's office for arranging these two ladies that have been signing for us, because we have people with impairments in the community. So I just wanted to say thank you to that. Any questions for Shane on his presentation? No? Thanks, appreciate it. Next, item number 9 is our consent agenda. I'll entertain a motion at this time.
So moved. Second.
Any questions? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Madam Clerk, item number 10.
Presentation, discussion, and possible approval to amend the Parks Maintenance Building Capital Project budget, establishing an expenditure budget of $326,810 by appropriating available budgeted fund balances.
Thank you. And Dylan Pruitt, our Parks and Rec Facilities Manager, will be presenting this item. And he was the one that was shaking vigorously his head at that splash pad's going to be ready for next summer, so I'm going to hold them accountable to that.
Please do, Mr. Mayor, please do. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, good to see you again after a break. So I come here tonight to ask for a budget amendment for the Parks Modular Office Building. Just a brief rundown of the timeline. Site engineering and design contract was posted in February of this year. Site and building design officially began then. That part of the project was completed in March 2023. The actual building purchase contract was posted in April, and the Modular Solutions Limited began construction on the building on April 28th. The building was completed just this month, August 20th, and still sitting on their property. The project was largely delayed due to the state approval process timeline and building construction lead time. As you know, we're still experiencing some lead time issues that can't really be avoided. Documents were submitted to ADOH on April 11th of 2023, and state approval was not given until the end of June. We didn't find out that we had gotten approval until the end of July. In addition to that, local planning and zoning approval process is still currently underway, as is the local building permit process. Additional portions still outstanding. I guess I can run through the slides too, since I'm additional portions still outstanding would be the utility connections, site improvements such as building pad construction, parking lot, sidewalk, etc., as well as building installation on site and building furnishing once completed. Many components of the PRCS kind of timeline and plan rely on this building being completed, most noticeably the town hall office space reorganization, as well as rec transfer to the new church facility and demolition of the current parks office building. So with that being said, staff is requesting that the remainder of the CIP funds be moved forward as a budget amendment to this fiscal year to enable completion of the project.
Right, thank you. So the short synopsis is that because of some of these delays, basically because our year ends in July, that we're rolling over.
Yes, correct.
Yeah, thank you, appreciate it. Anybody have any questions?
Mr.
If not,
Mayor?
yes.
I move to amend the Parks Maintenance Building Capital Project budget, establishing an expenditure budget of $810,000, sorry, I think I said it wrong, by appropriating available budgeted fund balances.
Second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Appreciate that. Thank you. Madam Clerk, item number 11.
Discussion and possible approval of a budget amendment in the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Department, appropriating an additional $187,000 of available budgeted fund balances and transferring $145,000 of budgeted expenditures out of a contracted landscaping services, increasing budgeted personnel costs by $193,000, supplies by $34,000, and capital outlay by $105,000, authorizing an additional 2.5 full-time equivalent employees and the purchase of a mower.
Thank you. Devin Stalder, our Parks, Recreation, and Community Service Director, will present this item. Good evening, Devin.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor. Honorable Mayor, members of the council, thank you for hearing this item tonight. Sorry. So, just as a heads up, we have a lot of numbers in this presentation, so feel free to stop me along the way. To get started, earlier this year, we had a budget retreat with mayor and council, going over changes to our fiscal 24 operating budget. We had requested an increase of 22.52% to our fiscal 24 budget for contracted services. And one of the questions that was posed to us by mayor and council was to look at this number to see if there was any way we could save some dollars. What we found was kind of the timing after budget retreat was that we had to go into new contracts with our landscaping services. We had increased that budget by 22%, but we had found with our lowest estimation of service to need $370,322, which even with that increase left us as a deficit of $95,322. So the landscaping services has three components, and we broke it out into part A, B, and C. Part A is the park's regular maintenance, which is kind of our hardscaping with trash services and parking lot maintenance. That lowest bid was $129,000. And then Parts B and C, Part B is our summer maintenance at $20,000. This number encompasses the work that we contract to the schools during the summer recess. And Part C is our green space maintenance, so field mowing, trimming, and pruning. And that estimation came at, that lowest estimation came in at $220,000. So I highlighted Parts B and C in blue just to talk about those numbers. When council asked us to investigate some cost savings here, Part B and C were the two that were viable for us to potentially look at inheriting. So option A, you have two options ahead of you here. So option A is if we were to fully contract this service, the total amount would be $370,000. And again, from that first slide, just broken out in Part A, B, and C, would leave us at a deficit of $95,000 from what we had requested from the fiscal 24 operating budget.
And Devin, just to touch on that point, doing that on B and C, which has happened over the past, we give up full control of the quality of the fields, the dog parks, which we've heard a lot about. And I know with workforce turnover and things, and probably the landscaping industry has a lot of that anyways, but I know that's been a constant difficulty keeping up with the quality. Is that not correct?
You're correct, Mr. Mayor, and that's we'll expand a little bit on that here in a minute too. No, you're totally fine. So just the numbers behind it. So option B is this kind of partially contracted model where we take Part A, because Part A was not really viable in our cost benefit analysis, continue to contract that, so the hardscape maintenance, trash services, as well as the parking lot maintenance, still continue to contract that at $128,000, but look at taking Part B and C in-house. Our estimation is that if we can take that work over by taking on 2 full-time equivalents at $154,000. We've budgeted a tentative part-time benefited employee for that summer maintenance, just in case we find that we're not able to take on that work when the summer comes next year. And then supplies and equipment. So these are consumables, tires, gasoline, costs for trucks, the longevity. We estimate that to be at about $33,000. So our Part B, partially contracted, we believe for that one-to-one comparison to be at $354,000. However, there is a key piece of equipment that we believe we need to be able to do this, which is a large mower to be able to take care of that green space, especially when we talk about the quality of the fields. So this is a one-time cost at $105,000. So our fiscal year 24 budget is off $79,796, but when we consider that one-time purchase of a mower at $105,000, we're looking at a shortfall for fiscal 24 of a total cost of $459,000. So the next slide really kind of breaks down a comparison over the life of the contract and really a 10-year term. What we're looking at comparing the two options, option A and option B. So you'll see in the first year, fully contracting is still the way to go. However, that's because of that considering the one-time cost. Over 10 years, however, we believe by taking it in-house, the town could save roughly $100,000 by taking these components, Part B and C, in-house. When we went out for the bid process, our average increase year over year for the contracts was about 6%. So we applied that same 6% to the town. However, we believe we'll see less than a 5% increase to the town cost. So being conservative in nature, we took that 6%, applied it to our number to get that comparison at $100,000. However, with that 5% increase that we believe will be under, we still think that that savings could potentially be more than that $100,000 over the course of 10 years. Again, for that year one, we have to consider that one-time purchase of a mower. We do estimate that that'll have a 10 to 12-year serviceable life. So that's why we compared over a 10-year term. And then you'll notice that little orange block. Every 5 years, we go out for another contract. And this year, we estimated a 22% increase. We saw significantly over that. We don't know in 5 years if we will experience the same thing. So 6% year over year might be low, again, being conservative in nature. We just don't know what that 5 years and beyond will look like if we continue to contract all the components. So, Mr. Mayor, you touched on this piece. So, learn our current landscaping issues and potential benefits going in-house. The bidding has been very inconsistent. We spent basically the entire summer working out every detail for all the park spaces and what we expected for the maintenance. And the bidding was just very inconsistent. There are these intangible benefits that you speak of as well, Mr. Mayor, of taking these services in-house, which are increased oversight of work performed, less staff involvement of contract management, and overall a higher quality product offered to the community. But then lastly, the numbers, a potential cost savings over a 10-year term and beyond. So our recommendation, staff recommends adopting and amending the town budget, increasing Parks, Recreation, and Community Services fiscal 24 operating budget in the amount of $185,000, authorizing the hiring of an additional 2 full-time benefited and 1 part-time benefited parks maintenance worker, and the purchase of an additional mower to take that Part B and C in-house. And with that, I can entertain
Thanks. No,
questions.
just as an example, last time I got a complaint on the dog park, the clippings weren't picked up, and of course I reach out to you and Dylan, then Dylan has to reach out to the contractor, and, a week later maybe they get it taken care of. So I know a lot of time is spent being responsible for quality that we don't own, basically. So I know that's where this potentially came from.
Yeah, Mr.
Yes.
Mayor, quality is a management issue, whether it's managing a contract or managing an employee. It still has to be somebody's oversight, following up, correcting it, and making it right. So, the 6 of one, half a dozen of the other. It may take a little longer to get it rectified, but that's only because we allow it.
Right. But I think some of it happens because we don't have that close personal contact with those folks, because probably, I'm guessing, it would have been done correctly. We hope, hiring the right people, we would have been done correctly the first time, as opposed to hoping somebody else that's doing it. Because that's most of the complaints when it comes to fields and those types of things. It's our employees having to manage other employees that we really don't have control over. And again, I know, speaking with AAA and some of the other folks, that constant turnover probably doesn't get to the level of expectation that we hope to have.
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Mayor, and Councilman Bracco, just to kind of note on that, we have really great relationships with our contractors. I wouldn't knock the work. It's just that the timing when you have to follow up with the supervisor and then get down to the staff and get an action corrected can take time, and it can be significant. And when we're looking at a week delay, some of that comes from there. We do spend, and really Dylan spends a significant amount of time working with our contractors to rectify issues. I will also note, we did a comparison with other municipalities in our area, and we are definitely the outlier when it comes to contracting these kinds of services. And we're really trying to just take them in-house, going back to that in-house quality, owning our fields, and really being able to offer a great product to the community.
Right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Part of the problem when you're doing contracting is everybody's got to look in their crystal ball, especially if you're doing a 5-year contract, as opposed to maybe a shorter term with 1-year add-ons after that. So they're looking at where it is today, and they're projecting it out 5 years, which may be a completely different environment. So they got to put more costs in there to do that. Maybe we should be looking at shorter term contracts or year, where we can, they can bid out a new annual amount, and then we can just approve that rather than a whole new contract. But we may need to do something different when we're looking at 5 years, the way the environment is today.
Yeah, that's correct, Councilman Bracco. And so the way we're doing our contracting currently is those 5-year terms. We do build in those safeties on a year basis so that we can allow contractors to change costs and really work with us to take into account, a pandemic that can drive costs up through the roof. Yeah. Yes, correct. Correct.
Anybody, other questions? No?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I move to approve budget amendment in the Parks and Recs Community Services Department, appropriating additional, said 185, this is 187.
Yeah.
Let's go with the 187,
Okay.
probably.
Okay, 187,000 of available budgeting fund balances, and transferring 145,000 of budgeted expenditures out of the contracted landscaping services, increasing budgeted personnel costs by 193,000, supplies by 34,000, and capital outlay by $105,000, authorizing an additional 2.5 full-time equivalent employees and the purchase of a mower.
I'll second.
Any further questions?
No.
Excuse me, all in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion approves. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item, I don't know, we have my item,
12.
Madam Clerk, please proceed on item number 12.
Discussion and possible approval of a lease agreement, contract number 240007 with Global Water Resources Incorporated to lease 8,000 square feet of the Saharita Advanced Manufacturing and Technology Center.
Thank you, and Victor Gonzalez, our Economic Development and Public Affairs Director, will introduce the item, and I think we might have representatives from GWR to attend via Teams, but at this point, I'll let Victor proceed.
We do. Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. I will be presenting this item, and we do have Mr. Eric Burkett in the
I'm sorry,
audience.
I forgot Eric was in the audience, too. Thank you.
And we also have the Global Water team on Teams to answer any questions regarding their operations and the expansion into Samtec. Just want to give you a general sense of the lease contract and what the projected impact will be economically for us. To start, the lease is for the 8,000 square feet at the bottom half. So as we're looking at that exhibit, the 8,000 square feet is towards the bottom. If you're at the building, it's the northernmost section of Samtec. On the top section, the largest area, you have Power Photonic that's currently leasing the 14,000 square feet, and that is a 10-year lease term with them. That will leave us the 5,000 square feet in the middle. So just a little bit about what GWR is proposing for the expansion of their operations into Samtec. Obviously, they'll be providing the operational needs, supporting the customer service, the administrative side of operating and managing a utility company. The part that really gets me excited is the behind-the-scenes work that they will be doing as it relates to water management as well as smart water technology and the management of that resource, not only as a utility company, but also for its customers. And so they'll be deploying what is their technology that is GIS-based at the Samtec operations, as well as they'll have elements in which they'll be testing the water as well, and so they'll have a laboratory component within their operations in space. The lease proposal itself is for 10 years. That is a wonderful deal when you look at commercial real estate transactions to have a 10-year lease, and so that is a big benefit for us as landlords of Samtec. The base rent is at 65 cents per square foot per month, triple net. Triple net is really a common area expenses, will be an add-on to what is their monthly rental rate. And that base rent is subject to the rental tax as well as an annual increase as well. As part of the deal, we are going to be providing the tenant, upon submission of invoices, up to $280,000 in tenant improvements. The cost of that is recovered within the base rent. And so when we look at that 65 cents per square foot, that already accounts for that TI allowance. What's not necessarily unique or uncommon, it's fairly common for landlords to provide additional tenant improvement allowance and capture that through a payback schedule. In this case, we work with the tenant to provide an additional, what we're calling a tenant improvement additional allowance, and that's going to be an amount of an additional $220,000. We are recovering that $220,000 by way of an additional rate, if we want to call it that, that's tacked on to the base rate. So you have the base rate of 65 cents, and in addition to that, there'll be another 23 cents that we'll be capturing per square foot per month to recapture that additional allowance of $220,000. I'll pause there for any questions that there might be on those terms.
Any questions there? I know the base tenant improvement, that's a industry standard on doing that. But, you know, having that additional, I remember when we toured, some of us toured the Maricopa campus, you know, wastewater, water is a very technological process nowadays. So to have the lab there and those additional costs, I understand why they probably need additional, but it's good that it's going to be tacked on to the base rent, which would be the equivalent of 88 cents as opposed to 65 cents.
Correct. Mr. Mayor, members of the council, this is in line with what you see in commercial real estate transactions when we look at the base rental rate as well as a TI allowance. Similarly, we structured a deal like this with Power Photonics, in which we provided not only the base rent with the TI allowance, but also there was a need above and beyond for them with the clean room. And so this deal is very much in line with what we provided previously with our current tenant, Power Photonics.
Yeah. Any other questions? Before he continues, he was pausing.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I think I'd just add to that, just real quick, that you know, based off of our calcs, we would have a payback of that additional at 6.5 years.
Right.
So just the ROI on that.
Yeah. Because I know there was bumps, not only in the base rent, but also the additional TI allowance will also have bumps in it as well.
Correct.
Right. Thank you.
Yeah, something to make mention, there is that additional allowance, the 23 cents is also subject to a annual increase along with the base rent. So,
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
this seems like a really good deal for Global. Is this similar, not just the base rent for what we've done in the past, but also other commercial areas in the town?
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, when we look at these kind of deals, we look at what's comparable to market in the industrial segment of the real estate market. There's a little bit of a variance there in which we don't have. Green Valley, Sahuarita does not have an industrial market. And so we look at comps in the Tucson market and the submarkets within Tucson. And so these are in line with what would be industrial rates. Commercial is retail, and then you have your other segments such as office. And so those are parted out when we look at these comps. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm paying too much, so.
He just wants to move into an industrial.
That's right.
Yeah, moving next. Okay.
Bring in some of that surgery equipment and things, and we'll have it high tech. Continue.
Okay. So when we look at, well, one of the things we look at when we're considering tenants at Samtec is not only the use, right, the tenant and proposed operations, and that there's some alignment to what we want to accomplish with Samtec as a facility, and water technology is very much an alignment to that. We also look at the economic impact. And so we have here some projected numbers that Global Water provided to us. We know that in year one, there'll be roughly about 9 employees. Much of those are already existing employees that will transfer over from existing operations into the new site. But as we look at the growth that they're projecting, not only in year 5, but in year 10, that's very much the type of growth we want to see from a job count. And so they'll be at 17 at year 5, and then they'll be at 25 employees at year 10. When we look at the average wage of $86,000, that's very much in line with what is our median household income in the community. And so these are jobs that are in line with our demographics and our local workforce base. Total payroll is a good indicator for us as well. That payroll is going to contribute to the local economy by way of purchasing goods, services, and eating out. And then there's going to be a level of jobs and the types of jobs that will be provided, which you can see there on the screen, anywhere from operations to maintenance workers and customer service as well. And ultimately, they are projecting, as of right now, and certainly Global Water can speak to this a little bit more, the capital improvements or investments that will be made. Roughly, they've estimated about $4 million of that is going to be really only on utility improvements that they've made and they'll continue to do to their systems. And I don't believe that accounts for the TI improvements, but from what you saw with the allowance, there'll be anywhere from $500,000 to $750,000 just in the improvements to the space and all the fixtures and furniture that will go along in supporting the operations. So with that, happy to turn the time over to Eric, or I know there's folks from Global Water online as well to share any comments.
Right. Well, Eric, would you like to say anything or punt to the team up in Maricopa, or however you'd like to do it? I'd love to give you the opportunity. If you want to say anything, you don't have to, or the team doesn't, but.
So first, I just wanted to take the opportunity, Mayor, Council, and staff. I've had an opportunity to meet some of the folks on staff. I've had an opportunity to meet you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Eric Burkett. I'm the Regional Manager for Global Water Resources. What excites us as an organization about this proposal is it only goes to improve our partnership with the town. And that's something that's very important to us because our focus isn't just to work in the town. We want to be part of the community. I'm proud to say that I've moved to Sarita. I live in town and I also work in town, and I want to be part of the community.
Well, thank you. And I know the relationship has been good. And personally, I don't want the foundation anywhere else because, again, I toured the Maricopa facility, and the growth in there and the footprint that it added to the growth of the city of Maricopa, I think was a lot because of that relationship. So we appreciate that. I don't know who do we have on Teams, Lisa? Do you know if they want to say anything? Again, you don't have to, but I know you tuned in to a long meeting, so if you have the opportunity or wanted the opportunity to speak, please do so.
Mr. Mayor, we have John Corwin, Chris Krieger, and Stephen Brill joining us from GWR as well on Teams.
Thank you, team. Anything you want to add, or are you good?
I was just going to say good evening, and to reiterate Eric's comments, we're excited about it as well and can't wait to get started. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from council? No? I'll entertain a motion at this time.
Okay, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. I thought you had a question.
No.
Continue.
I move to approve contract 240007.
Second.
Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thanks for being part of our community and continue to work with us.
Thank you. It was a pleasure meeting all of you.
Thanks, Chris and all from afar. Madam Clerk, item number 13.
Presentation and update regarding the Sahuarita Water Reclamation Facility solar array installation.
Thank you. We have the award-winning Ms. Abramovitz here this evening, who happens to be our Assistant Town Manager, and will present this item. Welcome, Beth.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, member of the council. So I wanted to give you all a brief update. If you all remember, we've spent a lot of time talking about the solar installation at the wastewater treatment plant and whether or not was it successful. So just a really quick recap for the members who weren't here for all that discussion. We did install solar at the wastewater treatment plant. It was a great location for solar installation. There wasn't a lot of existing hardscape or landscape that could be damaged. We use a lot of electricity, so and the potential for returns was really high at this site.
Isn't it the #1 utility user in our town portfolio?
I believe so.
Yeah, that's what I thought I remembered
overall,
from past.
yes.
Let's go with that.
I thought it was lighting Gillespie's tie.
Yeah, it might be. That's only one evening, though.
So the project included 8 shade structures and almost 2,600 actual solar panels, and it generates over 1.6 million kilowatt hours per year. And that was based on about the 85.
Is now exiting.
Oh.
They didn't
Voices
stay for
from
my
above.
presentation. I'm crushed. So that accounts for about 85 to 90% of the solar use or the electric use at the site. So we anticipated that we would generate almost the entire electricity use with these solar panels. So the most tangible benefit to the town was the cost of electric. And then a great side benefit of that, of course, was there was 8 shade structures that could now be used to protect our vehicles and materials from sun exposure. But I'd be remiss to say that there weren't any other sustainability benefits. And for those of you who are here, probably remember this slide. The US EPA has a greenhouse gas equivalencies calculator that on their site, and the 1.6 million kilowatt hours translates to these kind of sustainability savings, if you will. So the way this works is that the town pays Solon, they're the installers of the solar panels, a flat rate for the next 20 years for our electricity. They maintain the whole system, and at some point in the future, if or when the town decides to purchase it, we can. If we decide to never purchase it, they'll remove it free of charge at the end of 20 years. If we do decide to purchase it, there's usually a point where it's kind of the best to purchase it, and that's about 7 years into the system because of the tax credits and everything else. And over 20 years, we calculated that we're going to potentially save about $3 million based on our estimates on the increases for TEP. So what did we actually see? In the first 18 months, we saw a savings of $65,000. So that was breaks down to $43,000 over the course of a year in electricity savings. Assuming we never saw another increase from TEP, that would equal an $860,000 savings in electricity. But as we all know, come this September, we're going to be seeing some TEP increases. So we're well on our way to seeing those increases, or
savings.
The savings, thank you. For seeing the TEP increases, we're seeing those savings that we thought we were going to see. So I said to the point of $43,000 in just the first year. And that's my update. Anybody
Well,
has
thank
any
you.
questions?
No, I appreciate that. This isn't one of the things that I added, but I've often wondered when we did start that relationship, what were the savings? What were the benefits? So Shane, I appreciate staff putting this on here just to let us, kind of a check-in every once in a while on early relationships that we've established and how they've been working out. And I knew it was a big electricity hog, and you get in the shade in Arizona, so it probably isn't appropriate all places, but certainly this was the one. If there was any building or area in our town, would it be most beneficial? So thanks. Any questions? If not, I'll see a lot of people this week. If not, then it'll be September 11th, our next meeting. Having no more further business, we're adjourned.
Mr. Mayor, just for that, I'm going to be on the road for the next several weeks,
Yes.
but I will be cooling in.
Stay hydrated.
Yep.
Thanks, everybody.